Hey everyone, thanks for listening to the Bonfire Briefing Podcast. This week I talked with former Libertarian presidential candidate Sam Robb. We had an awesome conversation. We talked about ending the war on drugs, some of the different projects he's working on, and, according to him, the largest furry convention in the United States, which he attended not too long ago. I didn't know that I'd ever spend any of this podcast talking about furries, but it happened. And it was still a really great conversation. Hope you guys enjoy. All right, there we go. We should be live. Sam Robb, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Taylor. I appreciate you inviting me on.
Yeah, no, I'm really glad that you could join us today for the show. We were just talking about some of the stuff you had been up to recently, and you mentioned LibertyCon in Chattanooga. I'm actually from Tennessee. I don't live there anymore. Actually looking to go back here in a few weeks, visit some family over Memphis area. You talk a little bit about LibertyCon. What was it like over there? I wish I was in the back in my home state so I could have went.
It's LibertyCon was fantastic. I've been wanting to go there for years, literally. I got a membership and registered to attend back in 2019. So you can imagine what happened in 2020 was that it got delayed, and then it got delayed again, and finally was able to go, after 3 years. Significant enough time delay for me that when I registered, I was not a published author, and when I got to attend, I was, which was kind of cool. But it's a literary science fiction and fantasy convention, very much geared towards authors and publishers. I'd say probably about a third, maybe more, of the attendees were writers or publishers or related editors related to the publishing business. So it was very, very interesting to meet some of the people that I've been reading for years, and in some cases decades. And get a chance to say hi to them and talk to them about publishing business and about writing in general. Came out of there with a renewed commitment to sitting down and writing every day. So I've got three targets, daily targets now. I want to do some writing, I want to do some editing, and I want to do some reading to kind of keep the creative juices flowing. So it was a wonderful, wonderful time. Had a ball. The people down there were amazing. And not just the convention goers, all the people that we met in Chattanooga were fantastic. Just loved the city, loved what we saw of it. Had an absolute blast. And I think we're going to try and go back next year and probably leave a couple of days before and after so that we can actually explore some more and get a feel for the town and meet up with some people that we know down there, because it was really awesome.
Yeah, man, Chattanooga is an awesome little town. I haven't been in quite some time, actually. It's been quite a while since I've been over there, but like that whole east side of the state is really just there's some, I mean, all the way from Chattanooga, Knoxville, out towards some of the towns near the mountains, everything like that. It really is just a beautiful, beautiful part of the state, man. You'll definitely have to do some exploring next time you're down there.
Oh, it absolutely was gorgeous. Just walking around town in the morning. I like to go out, and one of the things I do is I walk and I take pictures. And I think about things, and that's my thinking time, and my this would make a good story time. And just getting out and walking around Chattanooga, just all the sights to see. It just really tickled me. It was awesome.
Yeah, no, it's oh man, yeah, no, it's such a great town. Now you mentioned before we hopped on, another convention, one that I'm a bit less familiar with. that you also attended
Yeah,
Anthrocon. Is that was the
Anthrocon.
name of it?
Yeah, I did.
Up in
I
Pittsburgh.
up in Pittsburgh every year. It's the largest furry convention in the U.S. I believe it might even be the largest furry convention in the world. I've never attended Anthrocon. Never actually signed up and gone. But every year I try to make it down to Pittsburgh, either on a Friday or a Saturday, just to walk around the convention center, check it out, see all the people in their fursuits. Um, it's one of those things that people put a ton of time and effort and creativity into creating these costumes, and it's incredibly impressive some of the things they accomplish. Um, the and Honestly, as a libertarian, right, seeing people, and I hope no furries take offense at this, because I mean it, genuinely and honestly. But just seeing you let your freak flag fly is awesome. I just love it. It's fantastic. They don't, yeah, they're just doing themselves and being who they are, and don't really care about it. And it's huge too. When I say it's the biggest convention, I think it's like 9 or 10,000 people
Oh man,
this year,
damn.
and yeah, they sold out. I think 12 hotels, or maybe even more hotels in downtown Pittsburgh. So I mean, we saw, traveling through the city yesterday, we saw basically furries at just about every corner of the city at one point or another. Which is kind of, I mean, it's just like I said, it's awesome to see. And but I also I also felt bad. We saw a couple of ladies that had taken off their heads on their fursuits, and you could tell, yeah, maybe July is not the best time to be walking around outside in a complete full body suit. Uh, but it just shows you, man, they're dedicated. They want to get out there, and the number of people I saw posing for pictures with kids, with folks, just happy to be there and excited to see that. There was a pirate game going on that let out about the same time that everybody was going to dinner, so we had two different crowds mingling, and it was really kind of cool.
Yeah, I actually went up to Pittsburgh. I'm trying to remember. It's been a couple months now. It was my first time up there. I was visiting some different friends, and um, one of the first things I did when I got there was go to a Pirates game, and I can't remember who they were playing, but there was something. Almost 30 runs were scored
Holy cow!
during the game, and it was my first pro baseball game that I had ever been to. I'm a pretty casual baseball fan, but
Yeah.
my buddy is a pretty big fan, so we went, and it was it was pouring down rain when we went, which was which not something we had really planned for, but that's just what happened. And of course, there weren't that many people there because they didn't want to get drenched, so we were able to move up and get some real good seats. And
Awesome.
no, man, it was a really good time. I'm actually looking to go back sometime during the summer. I live down in South Texas, and it's the heat down here is pretty miserable. I think spending a week or two up north might not be a bad idea. You have any recommendations of stuff to do in Pittsburgh whenever I visit again?
Oh man, there's a ton of stuff. You've got the Pirates games, like you said. Riverhound soccer. That's across the point from the Pirates Stadium. Um, the South Side's always fun. We've got a ton of restaurants on the South Side, in the Strip in Lawrenceville. Um, it's really kind of a foodie paradise if you're into trying different things. Um, Museums, we've got, up in Oakland, you've got the Carnegie Museum, Natural History. You've got the Mattress Factory, which is more of a modern art museum. Um, the Warhol Museum. Um, the Buell Science Center. Uh, you can go tour the USS Requin, which is a World War II era submarine that is docked on the riverside down by the Science Center.
Oh, wow.
Definitely ride the incline if you get the chance, going up and down the Mount Washington. Mount Washington's a great place to just stroll and take some pictures of the city. Uh, there's a ton of stuff to do, but like I said, for me, one of the things that I really enjoy in the city is just being able to walk around, check things out, see the different neighborhoods, see what's going on. Every neighborhood has its own bit of character. Um,
Right.
Squirrel Hill is different, entirely different uh, from going up on Polish Hill. Very different from Mount Washington. Um, in terms of restaurants and shops and everything. Definitely, if you do get to come down, if you have the chance during the day, go check out the Strip District. That is just a lot of fun. There's a ton of stores, ton of restaurants, souvenir shops, all sorts of different places that do metalworking, chocolate, Pennsylvania Libations, which is one of the only non-state stores where you can buy alcohol and distilled spirits, and they get away with that, I think, because everything they sell is made in Pennsylvania. So
Oh, wow.
there's some really cool stuff you can find if you just walk around and poke your nose in some places.
Yeah, no, there definitely is. It's a great city, and I think I'll heed your advice. I don't think I'll be wearing a big furry suit whenever I visit. I know it's probably not quite as hot up there, but still doesn't really sound like a good idea when you're walking around the
Oh no.
city trying to visit. Um, but no, man. I wanted to, really glad you could come on. The show. I've been seeing your tweets and following you a little bit. I wanted to ask, how did you get involved in politics? What was kind of your start in getting involved in the political realm, and uh, how did you end up becoming a libertarian?
um, well, becoming a libertarian was that happened a long time ago. um, I've always been a fan of I mentioned earlier, LibertyCon, Science Fiction Convention. I've always been a fan of Robert Heinlein, F. Paul Wilson, uh, L. Neil Smith, a bunch of other writers that are very libertarian. So for the longest time, I'd say probably back to about 2000 or so, I would describe myself as conservative or Republican with libertarian leanings. Um, Maybe about a decade ago, uh, it was the Mitt Romney nomination that really kind of pushed me out of the Republican camp and into the Libertarian camp. Um, I didn't see either party really interested in making any significant changes or returning liberty to the people, so I decided to go with the party that did. And then back in 2019 or so, decided, being a libertarian and having grown up in the United States where they tell you that anybody could grow up to be president, I decided to run for president. Sought the libertarian nomination. Didn't get it, obviously. Jo Jorgensen did. I was proud to be able to endorse her, and spend some time in Pennsylvania working for her and on her campaign with her and Spike Cohen. But that was kind of a feet first, getting thrown off the pier into the deep end sort of introduction to politics. I wouldn't recommend it necessarily, but I did have a lot of fun. Got to meet some amazing people, folks that my wife and I still keep in touch with across the country, folks that I'm still working with. I'm on the board of People for Liberty with Joe Jorgensen and Dan Fishman, another couple of other gentlemen that you might recognize, Jim Gray and Judge Jim Gray and Jim Babka from
Hmm.
Downsize DC. Lady by the name of Chris Crawford, who's heavily involved in politics up in, I believe, Massachusetts. Uh, so these are all people that I met through, this kind of my escapades there, and got to know a bunch of people in Pennsylvania that really got to be good friends with. Christine Kusler Womack, who was my uh, I don't know if I was her right hand man or if she was my right hand lady, but the two of us were working together on Joe and Spike's campaign here in Pennsylvania, and couldn't have done it without her. And she is absolutely amazing, folks that I would not have met otherwise, and I'm tremendously glad to have met. I'm also tremendously glad to not be as involved as I was at the beginning, because it really was like having it campaign. The campaigning itself was a lot of fun. There was a lot of effort put into that, but it was a lot of fun. You got to travel, you got to meet people, you got to talk to people about all sorts of things. Um, After that, running Joe's campaign, getting involved in Pennsylvania at the state level with the state Libertarian Party committee, um, it was like having a second job. I mean,
Right.
literally, I got to the point where I would wake up around 7 o'clock, um, let the dogs out, sit down with my laptop, work for 3 hours before I had to, go to work to do my day job. I'd come home, eat dinner, and then I'd sit down and work for another 4 or 5 hours in the evening, um, helping candidates, clearing up issues with election boards, doing all sorts of stuff. And it's taken some time to decompress from that, but I'm actually really glad. That's one of the reasons why, I have more time now for things that I really do enjoy. Making sure I could get out, get those walks and decompress, um, doing more writing, just have it, just kind of being able at this point to uh, look at different activities in the libertarian world and in the liberty world, and figure out, okay, here's some place where I can do something that I guess fits my talents a little bit better than running running full tilt and holding down a second job in politics.
Yeah, I can definitely imagine that, running your own campaign and then, going straight from that to working for Joe's campaign it had to keep it kept you pretty busy.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
what were some of the big policies that you prioritized during your run for president?
Oh wow. For me, there were a couple. I kind of did an A to Z, which isn't really. I wouldn't recommend that for a candidate. Having gotten some more experience, you learn by doing sometimes, and sometimes you learn by failing or
Right.
not doing things the right way. Um, my advice for a candidate, if you're going to run these days, would be pick your top three, your top three issues that you want to deal with, and focus on those. For me, looking back on it, I would say my top three were probably immigration, the economy, and individual liberties. And that kind of wraps up a bunch of different aspects of things that I talked about in policies. Immigration, I thought, and I still think that immigration is what made our country great. My grandparents were immigrants. My on both sides of the family. Um, uh, I work in an industry. I'm a software developer. I work in an industry where we have a lot of people that come to the U.S. on visas to work here, and end up either staying or getting going through the steps to become naturalized citizens. So it's one of those things where you know I've had to deal with the immigration service myself. My three daughters are all adopted from overseas, so I've got an insight into just how tangled that process can be, and it's a mess. It really is, and it doesn't serve our country well. What we really need is a return to uh, the more permissive model, the Ellis Island sort of immigration model that we used to have, Right now, we basically say, hey, we'll let you in if we think you're good. Uh,
Right.
Ellis Island used to be, hey, we'll let you in unless we think that you're gonna be a problem, unless you've got a criminal history, you've got some medical problems, whatever, right? But it was much more permissive. Basically, hey, if you want to come to America, if you want to be an American, we want you here. And that really is what made America great. That's what allowed us to grow and expand. And you didn't really see, I don't think, uh, a lot of problems with immigration until you started getting into larger government. Um, getting the federal government more involved in what's going on. So I think number one, I would have said return to immigration to being much more permissive. Number two, economy. Just get the government out of the economy. It puts its thumbs on all sorts of scales, causes all sorts of problems. We're seeing that now with gas prices, and you see it through with various different laws. Certificate of need laws for medicine. Where the state or local government says, we're not going to let you, for example, we're not going to let you put another MRI machine in a county unless all your competitors there agree that that there should be another MRI machine facility, which is absolutely ridiculous that you would run things that way. But
Right.
that's the way we do in a lot of ways. Licensing, occupational licensing laws, a lot of those are nuts. Pennsylvania, we have state stores. I mentioned that earlier, where it's the government actually, they have a monopoly on selling distilled spirits and alcohol. It's really kind of nuts the way that the government gets involved in the economy, and really, let's pull back from that. Let's get the government out of interfering with our economic relationships with each other. And then, like I said, the last one was kind of individual liberties, and that's kind of a catch-all for a lot of things. Um, you know, examining our civil liberties in the United States, where we stand on that. Taking a look at one of the phrases that came up a lot was defund the police, and
Mm-hmm.
it was really interesting for me, right? Because I agree with that 100%. Uh, but I'll put a caveat there. I'd like to change that and say we should be defunding law enforcement, because police are supposed to be peacekeepers. They're supposed to
Mm-hmm.
be there just like the fire department. If you have a problem, it's somebody that you can call to help you out, right? You don't have the fire department going around and coming onto your property and we're going to do a surprise inspection of your house or whatever. Uh, you they're not looking for problems. They're there to help you solve problems. We moved from a model of policing in the United States that used to be the kind of the Pelian, community policing, where police officers were members of the community that basically had the same responsibilities as everybody else in the community to keep the peace, to make sure that everything functioned smoothly societally, but they did it full time as opposed
Mm-hmm.
to people doing it part time. And I think we would be served incredibly well in the United States by stopping to take a look at at what's happened to our peacekeepers, at what's happened to our police forces that has changed them from being peacekeepers into being law enforcement. Because when you stop and think about it, keeping the peace and enforcing the laws are two entirely different things. And I think it's our view of the police as, oh, there's laws that they need to make sure that everybody follows, versus, you know what, we're going to make sure that nobody's hurting anybody, nobody's taking anybody's stuff, that we're keeping our hands to ourselves. As I think it's Sergeant Tom Cotton from oh man, what's Bangor, Maine Police Department, likes to use that phrase. Keep your hands to yourself. Be kind to one another. Very libertarian thoughts. But aside from that, the police should be there as a resource when we are in trouble, not something that is out there that we have to be afraid of. So there you go. Those were my three big ones.
Right. Well, what do you think caused that shift in our law enforcement? Because I definitely think you're right. They used to be a more peacekeeping force, but I don't know that I don't know that anyone, regardless of where they are on the political spectrum, would describe them really as that now. What do you think caused that shift? I mean, was it how could we maybe go back to that more preferred method of policing? Is it something to do with
Yeah.
training and recruitment? I mean, what are some tangible solutions there you think that we could use to maybe fix some of the problems that we're seeing way too often?
I think that the root of the problem goes back to prohibition, right?
Hmm.
It's an experiment that we had with, hey, let's go ahead and outlaw alcohol in the United States, and we saw how well that worked. We actually are continuing to see how well that works, even here a century later, right? Because it was prohibition that gave rise to organized crime in a lot of places in Chicago and New York. Crime families that have continued on to this day, organizations that have continued on to this day. Uh, Really, and you saw that replicated in the 50s, 60s, 70s with the war on drugs, and again, continuing
Right.
today. Or as I think Joe Jorgensen like to say, and I think I heard Spike say this at least once or twice too, the war on some drugs, right? Yeah, if your drug of choice, like Joe Jorgensen, is bourbon, if your drug of choice, like so many other Americans, is nicotine or caffeine, then that's quite okay, right? It's just some drugs that the government has problems with. Um, I think the war on drugs really, this prohibitionist regime, is really what has funded, fueled, and driven us from the Andy Griffith style community police, you know, uh, into this law enforcement realm, um, because you task these guys with doing the impossible, with rooting out. Uh, Basically, okay, you need to go keep people from smoking, but not smoking in general, smoking this one particular plant that seems to be popular, and it can be done anywhere, it can be grown anywhere, and you don't achieve any measure of success there without a surveillance state, without essentially moving to a police state. And even then, you can't win. We know that. We know we know that very well from from history, that there's nothing that's going to completely eradicate that. And even getting to the point where you kind of limit the availability of those substances to the population in general, you're doing it in a way that causes more harm than good. Not to we kind of saw that recently, right? In with COVID, where the response to it, we're starting to see, and I mean, libertarians pointed this out from the beginning. We, I did, Joe and Spike did, we all did, right? That the response was going to cause more damage than the disease ever could have, and we're actually starting to see that. That's exactly where we are, and what we're seeing, what we saw with alcohol prohibition, what we're seeing with the war on drugs, is that the effort to, you know, eradicate those the use of those substances, the response to that is causing far more damage than the drugs themselves ever could have. So honestly, if we want to reverse this situation that we're in, end the war on drugs. Get rid of it. Legalize marijuana. Go to, possibly even go to, um, trying to think what the country is. Portugal, I think, did a decriminalization model where they basically said, yeah, we realize that there are some people who are going to use these drugs, and we're not going to criminalize use. That opens you up to, hey, it's a lot easier to go to your counselor or go to your employer and say, hey, I need help. I'm
Right.
dealing with substance abuse issues. I need help. And know that you're not going to end up in jail. You're not going to end up fired. You're not going to have your life ruined. Um, and we're kind of in that situation where you can do that a little bit, but we really need more. We need to recognize that drug use often is not it's not something in and of itself. It can be, but a lot of times what you see with alcohol abuse, for example, what you can see with overuse and abuse of marijuana or other substances, is not, hey, I'm an addict because I want to be an addict. What you have is, I am an addict because I have some underlying mental health issues, or I have some underlying history, uh, you know, talking, undiagnosed PTSD, whatever it is. And I found the way to medicate myself. I found a way to try and deal with what I've been going through, because I didn't understand what it was. A lot of times I think our drug abuse issues that we have are mental health issues. A lot of times I think our policing issues that we're dealing with are war on drug issues. Um, if we would understand that, and if we change our viewpoint, if we would stop prosecuting people for growing a plant, if we would stop prosecuting people for trying to treat their pain, whether mental or physical, I think we would go a long way towards getting some balance back in this country.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, it's the time to end the war on drugs was before it ever even started, and we've been
Yeah,
continuing this this policy that we know does not work. We know it doesn't work, and like you said, it obviously does more harm than good. It doesn't really seem to be doing any good, as a matter of fact.
yeah.
Um, Yeah, no, and we've got to wrap up here before too long. I'm actually talking to Dan Berman um, in about half an hour or so.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah,
Tell him I said hi. Dan is a fantastic guy. My wife loves him. He is awesome.
yeah, no, yeah, no, he really great guy. Can't wait to talk to him. I'll absolutely let him know you said hello. There's a couple more things I wanted to talk to you about before we hopped off here. And
Shoot.
you talked about it a little before, but the People for Liberty group that you're with
Mhm.
Joe and those other guys that you mentioned. What all are y'all involved with over there? What's y'all's kind of mission, your purpose? What kind of things are y'all involved with that group?
Well, one of the things that we're doing, I like to describe it as, we're trying to help liberty-minded people who want to do liberty-minded things connect with other liberty-minded people.
Mm,
Um, we're working on building communities online, so and social communities, building out event calendars to help people understand what's going on in activities they can participate in. Um, we're going to be working on trying to help people identify and connect with people working on legislative issues that might concern them. But the whole goal is one, to help people who are interested in liberty and freedom and individual rights to connect with one another, to build a community, but two, to also find those people who have specific interests, specific liberty interests in one particular niche, and kind of expose them to the idea that what they're seeing may not be just one, just their particular issue that is an issue of liberty, but that their same concerns in, for example, with uh, you know, the war on drugs, the same issues that they have with uh, uh, dealing with government involvement in the medical system, the same issues that they might have with government schooling, uh, carry over to other areas.
Hmm.
So that and honestly, the idea is to take people who are kind of libertarian in one area or liberty minded in one area, right? And get them to think, you know what, maybe this isn't just this part of the government that's a problem. Maybe it's a lot of the parts of the government that all seem to have these same issues, and just build out a community of people who understand. Uh, you know, Gary Johnson said, right? Most people are libertarians; they just don't realize it. Uh,
Right.
we'd like to help them realize that, yeah, this is where you are. This isn't unusual. The fact that you think that our government is too big and that our government has too much power and that our government should back off and let people just live their lives. That isn't a radical idea. That's the American idea. That's the foundation of the country. I mean, we're celebrating it this weekend, right? We basically told
Right.
the British to leave us alone, let us live our life the way we want, and we're trying to get people to understand that, hey, whatever sphere you're in, where you're saying, I see the government causing problems here. It's not just there; it's all over the place.
Man, it's awesome that y'all are doing that too, because I feel, like you said, I feel like being a libertarian is kind of the default setting for most people. They just don't realize it because of the way our political system is set up. Really,
Yep.
you feel like that if you're not a Democrat and you're not a Republican, then you kind of just don't belong. And it makes people feel politically isolated, like they don't have any allies, that they don't have anyone that's trying to get involved with the system and make the changes that they want. But in reality, we're all, not everyone is a libertarian, but like you said, I feel like most people are. They don't know it yet, and they don't, in a lot of places they don't see other libertarians out there fighting for them, so they kind of just feel alone. So it's really
Yeah.
awesome that y'all are doing that and helping people get connected and get more involved, man. That's really awesome.
Well,
um
thank you. We're trying.
just one last thing before we hop off here. Tom Queter is a mutual connection of ours. He was
Mhm.
he was on the podcast a while back. Had a really awesome conversation with him. You said you've been working with him on a project with a group that he made. What kind of stuff are y'all working on? I'm real curious.
Well, for those of you who are not familiar with Tom, Tom is wheelchair bound. He's been
Oh,
basically.
all right, now we're back on after some technical difficulties. Not entirely sure what happened, but we're back. But yeah, if you just wanted to talk a little bit about the project that you and Tom are working on, and what y'all are doing with that.
Yeah, that actually, I started to say Tom is, for those in your audience who don't know him, is wheelchair bound. He has been for basically since he was a child, um, and the wheelchair model that he likes, that a lot of people, not just him, but a lot of people in his situation that basically are quadriplegics or paraplegics and need uh, a wheelchair constantly. Uh, his wheelchair design is fantastic. It's head and shoulders above just about anything else that I think you can find out there. Um, but the chair itself, the company that made it was sold, and then the company that took them over, as might happen when this happens, the design of the chair was changed. And it got away from what made it so attractive to Tom and a lot of other people, and some of the patents on the chair are either expired or going to be expiring, and we're looking at basically recreating this design that so many people liked. Tom got in touch with me because I'm a software developer. He's actually been in communication with Dan Berman, which I believe you said you're going to be talking to soon.
Yeah, yeah.
And this is really it's an incredible story because Tom's current wheelchair and kind of I think the backup wheelchair that they have for him uh, have all been crowdfunded through from libertarians. The government really is kind of at a loss for what to do because with Tom, because I think he was supposed to have passed away when he was like 12 or something. So he's pushing 40 and still going, running for Congress and
Right.
doing all these projects. But he is an amazingly tough guy. He is very dedicated, and what he saw in his life was that uh, the government wasn't really able to help him. It was voluntary associations and libertarians and liberty-minded people that stepped up to give him a hand. So we're looking at building out a team to work on maybe recreating this wheelchair design. I've got contacts, here in Pittsburgh at Carnegie Mellon University. Might try and reach out to some people there to see about providing some input, some advice, some technical expertise. Tom's got Dan, who is actually he's another software developer. He's a tremendous guy, incredibly smart. A bunch of other people involved with the project. Lauren Postler, who was one of the founders for People for Liberty. Just some really great people with a really great vision of, hey, here's something that people loved that we can recreate or improve upon, and get out there and show people that this model of voluntary cooperation works for something that's really, I mean, when you get right down to it, incredibly detailed, very significant, in terms of money and time and investment. But I think long term is best served by making it as open and as available as possible, rather than trying to, uh, I guess, kind of lock it in and make sure that you're controlling it. So that's a tremendous vision from Tom and his team, and I'm really pleased to be able to work with them on this, even in whatever small capacity I can.
Man, that's awesome, man. And you're right. Tom is such an awesome guy. I was very fortunate to have the opportunity to talk to him. I think it was early last month. We sat down and talked, and I mean, he really is just an awesome guy. And I've really enjoyed our conversation too. I'm really glad you came on the show, and we talked about a lot of interesting stuff, man. I really appreciate you coming on the show.
Oh, I loved it, man. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. It's not when you have a conversation that can range from science fiction conventions to furries to what to do in Pittsburgh and wheelchair projects. It's just awesome to be able to talk to folks. Thank you
Man,
so much.
nothing is off limits on this podcast. You're welcome back anytime, man. And yeah, I got to hop off here to go talk with Dan. I'll be sure to let him know you said hello.
Please do. And thank
All
you
right.
again for having me on, man.
All right. Thank you. I appreciate it. That was my conversation with former Libertarian presidential candidate Sam Robb. I really enjoyed our talk. He's got some great ideas, and he's working on some really awesome projects, including one that he's working on with Tom Queter, who was on the podcast a few weeks back. If you enjoyed the podcast, be sure to follow Bonfire Brief Pod on Twitter so you don't miss out on future episodes. Next week, I'm talking with Dan Taxationist Theft Berman,
another former Libertarian presidential candidate, and former 2022 Texas gubernatorial candidate. You're not going to want to miss that one either. Thanks for listening.